Hey guys, Alex here. And yesterday I watched that new science fiction movie called Jupiter Ascending, starring Channing Tatum, Mila Kunis, Sean Bean, and a lot of other notable actors. And this movie was produced by Grant Hill and the Wachowskis, and the Wachowskis also directed the movie, and they also wrote the movie too. And the Wachowskis are famous for teaming up on the Matrix trilogy, so that's who the Wachowskis are. So yeah, this is going to be a very quick. Well, maybe I hope this will be quick. This will be a movie review, and before I dive into the movie review, I'm going to give a quick plot summary, and after that, I'm going to talk about the good things about the movie, and then I'm going to talk about the bad things about the movie. And before I begin, I just want to make it clear that I did enjoy the movie overall. There were a lot of good things, but there were also a lot of very, very bad things. And when I see people making bad movie reviews about this movie, it's pretty understandable. I know this movie is not going to sit well with too many people. But with me, I enjoyed it as a movie. I had a whole bag of popcorn, and I enjoyed every mouthful of popcorn that I had while I watched this movie. So let's see, plot summary. Well, okay, so this movie, it's centered around Earth, but it takes place all over the universe. But our main character is Mila Kunis. Well, that's the actress. The character is Jupiter Jones. That's why they call it Jupiter Ascending. You find out in the backstory that Jupiter Jones was named after the planet Jupiter because her father liked to look at the stars with his giant telescope, and he really liked the planet Jupiter a lot, so he named his daughter Jupiter. So, we're going to fast forward here just a little bit. Jupiter Jones, she is living the life of a housemaid, or I guess a mobile maid. Like, she'll wake up every morning at 4:45 a.m. She gets up, goes house to house cleaning them, and then she'll go to bed really late at night, wake up super early the next day, and she hates her life. But what she doesn't know is that she's destined for greater things. They keep saying that, and they make it quite clear that she's destined for greater things. So now we're going to talk about the conflict here. There was this matriarch. She ruled over the house of Abrasax, and ever since this matriarch's death, her children are Balaam, Kaliki, and Titus. They started to fight over inheritance, and in this instance, inheritance meant fighting for a resource. I suppose you can call it a resource. And Earth, being one of the planets in dispute. Actually, in this movie, this is the planet in dispute because Earth is very rich, and they basically want to harvest Earthlings. That's basically what the resource is. You see, there's these people called what are they called? They're called entitled, and they're basically entitled to live off the harvest of these dead bodies, basically. And in the case of Earth, that would mean human bodies. So in order to sustain this really long lifestyle, each of these entitled people, they live to be thousands of years old. But in order to maintain this youth, they have to harvest dead bodies. So you find out later in the movie that it takes 100 humans to replenish the youth of one entitled person, and then they just keep this going, and that's how they make this business thrive. Is that these entitled people, they get to constantly harvest these dead bodies just to make themselves look better and live longer. So here's the conflict. Jupiter Jones, that's Mila Kunis, Her DNA sequencing is the exact match of the matriarch who passed away and whose children are now fighting for inheritance of the planet Earth. And when Jupiter Jones comes around, when they find out that her DNA is the exact duplicate of the matriarch, they include her in the fight for inheritance. So now you have Jupiter Jones, who doesn't know what's going on in this universe. She's never heard of entitled people. She's never heard of the House of Abrasax. So she's included in this four-way strife between the children. So you have Kaliki, Balaam, and Titus, and now you have this new player, Jupiter Jones. So they're all trying to con her into giving up her inheritance, because right now she is the first in line to inherit the planet Earth, and with the planet Earth, she can she has the dominance over the harvest, which turns out she's kind of repulsed by the idea of harvesting human bodies to make people immortal. Well, not immortal, but live a lot longer than a human should. So the other main character is Channing Tatum, and he was hired by Titus to bring back Jupiter Jones, but little spoiler alert: Jupiter Jones is being played by everybody, and even this hunter, Channing Tatum, whose name is Kane in the movie, he's being played too. Like he was told to bring back Jupiter Jones, but he wasn't told why. So there could be even more conflicts down the road. So that wasn't too much of a spoiler. I'm glad I avoided the spoiler there. So that's basically what the conflict is. It's her, competing with these other 3 children for inheritance over the planet Earth. And so let's talk about the good things and bad things about this movie. First, the good things. I really liked the action sequences. They were pretty freaking awesome, and I don't say that very often, but the action scenes in this movie were very good, and the 3D worked really well with this particular movie. The visual effects were amazing. Basically all the visual you see in the movie are going to be really good. Very immersive. It not only takes place on Earth, but also takes place around the universe. And everywhere they go, it just looks really immersive. And you can get lost in the visuals just by looking at it. And let's see, it had a very fun. It was a very fun movie. I guess that's another good aspect of this movie. But let's talk about the bad things about this movie. Okay, the bad things. Without calling any particular actor out, I want to say that the acting was very uneven. I did enjoy Channing Tatum's character Kane. I did enjoy Mila Kunis. I was surprised by that because I didn't really expect them to be able to act, but in the movie they were able to act pretty well. Sean Bean, of course, is always a good actor, but I felt that he was a little out of place in this movie because his acting's on a different level. And I guess by saying that, I'm calling out the other actors, I suppose. But he just seemed really out of place in that movie. And that said, I do want to say that, some of the other performances in the movie weren't as great as the people I mentioned. It just seemed a little uneven. You might be able to blame that to directing. It just seemed like it wasn't quite spot on with the rest of the movie. It felt very uneven. And so I guess the acting was uneven. That's one thing I didn't like about the movie. Second thing is a lot of the visuals. I mean, like some of the scenes seem very derivative of other movies. Same with some of the visuals as well. Like, for example, when they go to Kaliki's her palace, it looks not exactly, but it looks very reminiscent of Queen Amidala's palace at Naboo. But when I first saw that, me and my friend at the same time said, "Hey, look, it's Naboo!" At the exact same time. When Mila Kunis is getting married later on, like all the white costumes you see, it reminded me of that all-white look that you see with President Snow in the Hunger Games movies. I'm not sure if you guys saw that trailer where everything's all white. That's what that wedding scene reminded me of. And there was another scene where a lot of the costumes, they were all bunched together, all these people, and it looked exactly like these guys would fit in very well in the capital of the Hunger Games. But you know how everyone in the capital had all these funky looking costumes? That's what it looked like in this movie too. It looked very reminiscent of that. And then as for particular scenes, there was one scene where Mila Kunis was getting her tattoo for her her entitlement thing. And there's this guy trying to look for something, I guess for the pieces to make it happen. That scene reminded me of Ollivander from Harry Potter, when Ollivander's looking for different wands. That's what that scene reminded me of. And pretty much a lot of these scenes just reminded me of other movies. Like, it seemed very derivative, to be honest. And some other bad things. I didn't really like... I mean, I said I liked Channing Tatum's character, Kane, but I didn't like his makeup. Like, I wonder if there's a way they could have avoided making him look so ridiculous. Because in the movie, his character Kane, he is a genetic crossbreed between a human and a wolf. So you can just imagine what that would look like when you cross a human and a wolf. It looks kind of ridiculous. My friend was telling me that that the character of Kane, it reminded him of Mugatu from Zoolander. And do you guys remember what Mugatu looked like in Zoolander? That's kind of what he looked like, what Channing Tatum looked like in Jupiter Ascending. So it looked kind of ridiculous, to be honest. And there were some other costumes in the movie that didn't really do it for me. They look kind of cheap. But I guess those are all the bad things, in my opinion. The soundtrack didn't really stand out too much for me, but it was okay. It got the job done, but it wasn't very memorable for me. So, I'm trying to think. Yeah, right now I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for Jupiter Ascending, seeing if there's anything I should point out. Like, I'm using this as a reference for the character names and for the crew names. But yeah, I mean, overall I did like the movie, but I just felt like a lot of it was very derivative of other movies, and some of the acting wasn't that great, and the soundtrack wasn't very memorable for me, but it was okay. And yeah, Channing Tatum's makeup looked ridiculous in that movie. I'm sorry to say, it just looked ridiculous. But all right, did you guys watch this movie? What are your thoughts on this movie? Like, I was excited to see this movie despite all the negative reviews I read about it, because I like to see a movie for myself and judge for myself if I like the movie or not. And I do like watching sci-fi. Like, I like watching a lot of war movies and movies set in historical times. But whenever a sci-fi movie comes out too, I'm also very anxious to watch a sci-fi movie. I happen to really like the sci-fi genre in cinema. But here's this poster I got from the movie, Jupiter Ascending. I got this from the Regal Cinema, and the poster's pretty cool. Like, I mean, again, I want to say the movie was very fun, and I know I blasted the acting, but it was okay. I mean, it just didn't seem. It seemed like it could have been a lot better, in my opinion. Anyways, post your thoughts in the comments, and I'll read them later on.